Welcome back, everyone, to the life of Dr. Curtis O. I thought I had a schedule that I was gonna be able to stick to, where I was gonna be able to produce content every week or at least every other week. But my son CJ, it's his world, and we're just living in it. So I gotta make some adjustments so that I can get back on top. But at least I'm here with y'all today to produce another segment. So let's jump right into it. But before we do, y'all know what to do: like, subscribe, comment, everything in between. And don't be stingy with the content. If you know someone that knows someone that knows someone that knows someone that needs to hear this, go ahead and share that. All right. So in this segment, we're going to talk about locums. So what is locums? Locums in a nutshell is providing temporary services for a hospital, for a clinic, or something of that nature. And anybody can do it as long as there is a need, whether it's a doctor, a nurse, a therapist, etc., etc., etc. So for the purpose of this segment, we're going to talk about doctors, and we're going to dive into a little bit more about what locums actually is. So the first thing we're going to talk about with regards to locums is schedule. How is the schedule set up for someone who's doing locums? And the answer to that is it varies. It varies a lot. And the reason why I say that is because there is no contract. For the most part, there is no contract that states that you have to do a certain amount of shifts per month or a certain amount of shifts per year. You make your own schedule. So if you want to work a lot for that month or work a lot for that year, you can. If you want to work very little, you can do that as well. So that is one of the great things about doing locums is you can make your own schedule. For instance, when I was getting ready to finish residency, I had a mentor who was doing locums. Straight up locums. And what he would do, which was absolutely crazy, was that he would work 6 straight months for the year. 6 straight months. And what would he do for the last 6 months? Chill. Vacations, kick it with family, so on and so forth. Now that's kind of the extreme. That is something that you rarely ever see, but that's what he did. He knew that after working 6 straight months, he was good. I mean, he was good for the rest of the year. So you can do it like that, or you can do it where you're doing 7 on, 7 off, or doing 3 days or 11 days straight, or whatever the case is. It is up to you how you want to do it with that particular locums company. So for me, after completing residency, that is what I did. For me, who is a hustler, who is a go-getter, I wanted to make as much money as I could, amongst other things. There's another reason why I did locums, which I'm going to touch on later, but one of the reasons why I chose locum is that I wanted to make way more money than you could with a contract with the hospital. So what I did was I was working 7-day stretches, 11-day stretches. I even did 17-day stretches, and I even had one time in a month where I did 20 days or 21 days straight. It was absolutely crazy, but I did it because I knew that doing it that way, I was good. I can relax for the next 14 days, however I wanted to do it. So for me personally, I knew that I could work like crazy, pick up as much money as possible, and then if I wanted to decide, if I wanted to drop locums to now pick up a contract with a hospital, I can do it at that time. But I knew that I made as much money in that moment of time. So a lot of y'all probably asking, well then, if you did it like that, how much money were you making? Or how much money can you make? And again, the answer to that is that it varies. The reason why is because certain cities you can make a lot more than others. And the reason why is that, for instance, in Houston, there are some opportunities where you can do locums, but you're not going to make that much more an hour because you're in a city like Houston versus some city that's in the middle of nowhere. In order for them to attract physicians, nurses, therapists, or whatever the case may be, they have to toss more money at them. So for instance, the way I saw it, or the way when I looked at things and I researched before I started doing locums, is that I typically saw a 50% increase, sometimes even 75% more than what I would have made with a contract at a particular hospital. So for example, if a hospital is paying you $100 an hour, typically I can find a locums company that could pay me $150 an hour. So I was making 50% more, $50 more extra an hour. There's certain places where you can make 75% more. I've even seen some that are crazy as making 100% more than what you would have made at a particular hospital with the contract. However, there's a lot of variables that, that made it 100% more an hour. Whether it was a huge census load, whether it was the call schedule, whatever the case was. But again, you can make so much more, which is why I did that fresh out of residency, because I'm young, didn't have any kids, I wasn't married at the time. So I had the chance to be able to get out, travel, and make a shitload of money in a very small amount of time before I decided to give up locums and pursue a contract with a particular hospital. So the reason why I personally chose locums is, I think I touched on it in a few previous videos, is that because I went to a Caribbean medical school, there were certain things that I needed, that the Texas needed from me in order for me to be board eligible in the state of Texas. Texas and California were very notorious for having a laundry list of things that needed to be done. So for me personally, while I was waiting to get my Texas medical license, I had to do locums in another state. I was going to do it anyways, but it really forced me to do it because there was going to be some downtime where I wasn't going to be able to work in Texas. So I decided to do locums, which was in Louisiana, so that I can at least make some money while I'm waiting for everything to complete. So those are the two biggest things that I want to touch on first, which was the schedule and the payoff for locums. Now I want to get a little bit deeper as to what are the pros and the cons, because from the outside looking in, you don't necessarily think about these things. So I wanted to give y'all this information so that if you are interested in doing locums, you have all the information that you need to make the decision what's best for you. So the first thing I want to touch on first are the pros to doing locums. And the number one thing that I just talked about was money. If you're one that wants to make so much money in a very short period of time, or if you want to do it long term, that's all on you. But if you want to do locums where you can make a lot of money in a short period of time, this is for you. You can make a lot of money, whether it's internal medicine, pulmonary critical care, as a nurse. You can make so much extra money that you could not do with a contract with a particular hospital. Another good thing about doing locums is write-offs. You can write off so many things, like so many things. So you can write off, obviously gas is a big one. You can write off clothes, you can write off shoes, you can write off tablets, computers, you can write off food. You can write off so many things with locums to help you out with regards to your taxes. And that is one big thing that I personally did with my CPA, was that I made sure that I had receipts for everything that I did with regards to locums so that I can write those things off. Even when it comes to a car, you can actually write off for a car as well as it being your work car. Because obviously if you're traveling from Houston to Dallas, Houston to Austin, whatever the case is, you're using your car to be able to get to work. So that is considered a work car. So you can write that off. So that is one big thing with regards to locums, is that you can write off legally. You can create an LLC, you can create an S Corp. There's so many things that you can do with locums. There's so many things you can do as an independent contractor that plays into your favor. So again, if you're interested in doing that, reach out to your CPA, research online on how to do this, that, or the third, because it can be very advantageous for you if this is the route that you want to go. Another pro that I just touched on was you can work as much as you want or as little as you want. If you want to work 30 days straight in a row, work 30 days straight in a row. If you only want to work 2 or 3, you can do that. You can set your own schedule and can nobody tell you otherwise. And that is a great thing with locums, is that you don't have to be tied to anything. You don't have to be tied to hospital system. You don't have to be tied to hidden metrics. You don't have to be tied to this. You go to work, you see your patients, you get out of there. You do 7 days for the month and you want to chill for the next 23 days, 24 days for that month and travel, vacations, kick it with family, you can do that. It is your world and they're just living in it. So that is so big for a lot of people that don't want to be tied down to a contract. If that is you, by all means, shoot for it. Another pro with regards to locums is you can explore as many cities as you want. If you're someone that loves to sightsee and travel and do all these other things, then locums is good for you. You can go to Cali, you can go to Florida, you can go to Texas, you can go North Dakota, South Dakota, you can go to Connecticut. It doesn't really matter. If you want to kind of get out of there and see different cities and use your time to just enjoy yourself and explore, then that's another reason why you may want to choose to do locums. And another pro is that there's always a demand, because hospitals will always be understaffed in certain cities. It's just the nature of the beast. So if you're concerned that, hey, me doing locums is only going to be able to be done for a certain amount of time, don't be concerned about that. Obviously, it may not be where Houston will always have spots. They may, but there only may be a couple of those. But there's going to be states, there's going to be cities where they're always going to need doctors. So locums will always be there for doctors, nurses, therapists, again, for anybody, as long as that particular building, whether it's a clinic, hospital, whatever it is understaffed. So those are a few pros with regards to locums. Now I want to touch on what the cons are. And the very first one, which made me get out of locums, is you're pretty much living out of your luggage. For me personally, when I got done with residency and I did locums, I was pretty much going to one hospital only, which was in Lake Charles, Louisiana. And so I was working so much, which was fine because I wanted to make all this money. Again, I'm a go-getter. I'm a business-minded person. So I wanted to make as much money as possible in a very short period of time. But the thing that I didn't necessarily like about it was that I was always living from my suitcase. So I was always on the move. I couldn't take a breather because for me personally, I wanted to work so much. So if I wanted to just do 7 on, 7 off with locums, I could to an extent, but that's not the reason why I chose that. I chose it so that I can work a lot. But with that being said, the caveat is that I was living from my suitcase. So I always felt like I was on the go. I felt like my home was my luggage. And so if you're one that you have families and friends, you love to do all of these things and you like a little bit more stability, then locums may not be for you. Another potential con with regards to locums is electronic medical records. Every hospital has their own. So you may have to learn Epics at this hospital, Cerner at this hospital, one other EMR system at this particular hospital. So if you're jumping from hospital to hospital to do locums, then you're gonna have to learn every single one of those, which obviously can be stressful at times because you're trying to learn all the intricate details of that particular system so that you can move fast and see patients in a timely fashion. So that could be tough. For me personally, it was not like that because I chose one hospital. I chose one city where I wanted to do my locums at. So I only had to learn one system. But I know people who were jumping from one city to the next, one hospital to the next. And so learning all of those systems can be extremely stressful, and that right there can cause a lot of stress. Not only do you have to learn the medical record system, you also have to learn the system within the hospital. The doctors there, the nurses there, how things have to be run. It can be extremely time consuming and extremely stressful if you're not built for that. So if locums is what you want to do, if you want to go different cities, be aware that you are going to have to do that, and that may lead you to burning out if you do not take care of yourself. So another con with regards to locums is healthcare insurance. 99 times out of 100 with regards to locums, they are going to pay your malpractice insurance. But with regards to health insurance, nah, you have to pay your own. Now, obviously, with the contract with a particular hospital, you're paying for healthcare insurance as well. But you're going to be paying a little bit more out of pocket doing locums than you will with a contract with a hospital. It's just nature of the beast. But for a lot of people they don't mind. I didn't mind that because I knew I was making way more with locums than I was doing contract work with the hospital. Another con is multiple state licenses. So in order for you to work at a certain state, you have to apply for a state license. I mean, that's pretty self-explanatory, but a lot of people don't think about it like that sometimes. So if you want to work in Louisiana, Alabama, Florida, where you're gonna have to get a state license in Louisiana, Alabama, and Florida. So that at times is going to cost you, where you have to pay for those licenses. You got certain locum companies that will pay for it, that will pay for your license for you, or expedite the process. And at times it can take some time in order to get your license. But in order for you to work in different states, you're going to have to apply for different licenses. So it's not a big con. It's something that's there that I wanted to make y'all aware of. So another con, which is a very big one that you should be aware of when you do locums, is buying a home. If you were doing locums and you were in the process of buying a home, it could be extremely tough. Why? Because a lot of loan companies that are going to provide you money to buy a home want to see stability. They want to see a stable amount of income that you are making. So with regards to locums, you don't necessarily have a contract where you're able to show a particular company, hey, they are paying me this much every year. With regards to locums, again, it varies. It varies how much money you make because it's on you. And so for a company to feel comfortable, you have to go through all of these loopholes. You have to show all of this documentation in order for you to buy a home. And that is one thing I had to deal with. And that is one thing that I wanted to share with you. So the last content I wanted to share with y'all, which is very, very important, is putting money aside. What I mean by that? Well, with regards to locums, you are an independent contractor, so you get a 1099, right? So with each check that they cut you, there's no taxes taken out of it. So you get this check that is way much more than you would with your W-2 with a particular hospital. So a lot of people will get this check. I know some people that will get their check and blow it, not putting money aside. So if you're making $1, so for every dollar you make, the standard would be taking 30 cents from that and putting that aside into account. So what I did personally to make sure I didn't get hit hard, obviously I'm going to be writing things off left and right, but one of the things that I wanted to make sure that I did so I did not get hard when it came to tax season was for every dollar I made, I took 30 cents of it and I put it into another account and I did not touch it. So if I made $1,000 for that week, for example, I put 300 of it into another account. And so I did not touch that. So when it came to me sitting down with my CPA and going through all of that, I knew that I had an account that was at worst, I was gonna have to give that money away. But if you do it right, then that 30% that you put into that account, you'll likely be able to take some of that and put back into your account because of all the write-offs that you're able to do. So again, if you're going to do locums and you're going to want them to cut these checks, be very mindful. Be aware that you are going to have to give money back. I mean, the very first time I had to give money back, very first year, I made so much more. I made so much money because I worked so much. And I remember sitting down with my CPA and he told me I owed $23,000 back. That right there, my heart sunk. Because I knew I was gonna have to get that money back. But at that moment in time, I was not keeping that in the back of my mind every time I got that check. So I had the money, obviously, but I wasn't mentally prepared for that. So I had to write a check for $23,000 plus. Boy, that hurt, especially for someone who didn't really have that type of money coming out of residency, making all this money, and then Uncle Sam taking that money back from me. Whew. Boy, that was tough. But so yeah, so that is the last content I want to share with y'all is if you're doing locums, just go ahead and create another account and put money aside every time they cut you a check so that when Uncle Sam comes knocking, you already have money that you're able to give at worst already there. You know what I mean? So that's it in a nutshell. That's what I want to share. That is what locums is all about. So if that is an interest of yours, by all means, shoot for it. If you have any questions, drop those in the comments below. But that's all I have for y'all. Y'all know what to do. Like, share, comment. Tell someone that knows someone that knows someone that knows someone that knows someone, and stop being stingy with these videos. Someone, I'm sure, would like to hear this content because I'm sure it would help them out. All right? So we're reaching the holidays. If I don't speak with y'all before then, happy holidays, happy Thanksgiving, happy Kwanzaa, happy Christmas, and everything in between. But I hope to be able to drop another video before then. But if I don't blame me, blame CJ.